Ooh, that sounds fun. Hey guys, this is Dustin from Music the Lifeblood. Welcome to Vinyl Thursday. Hi, how are you? It's been a minute. Or several thousand, maybe. I don't know. It's been a while, but glad you're still there. Glad I'm still here. Now, we're just going to jump into it. Let's talk about Danzig 666, Satan's Child. So oodles of folks have a tendency to wave away Satan's Child as a derivative nu metal mess that was cringed into existence by a 40-something-year-old Glenn Danzig in the late 90s. It's the techno period, blah, 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 electronic stuff. I don't like it. There's not enough guitars, blah, 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 blah. But there's a shit ton of guitars on this album. That's not the only reason I love it, but for whatever reason, this album gets chronically underrated, in my opinion. There's a lot to offer here, and I think it's a high watermark in that era of Danzig. Before anybody trots out the Hangover references as far as the soundtrack to the movie, yes, this is the Danzig album with 13 on it. If you don't know what's going on with that song, it was a song written by Glenn Danzig for Johnny Cash. I think it was on Johnny's 1994 American Recordings album, I think, without fact-checking that. But yeah, this song is on here. It's a great song, killer. You get to hear Danzig's sort of full-on vision of the song as opposed to filtering it through Johnny Cash's his artistic sensibilities. Yeah, this is absolutely a high watermark on the album for sure. I was born in the soul of misery, and I never had me. They just give me a number when I was. Is this an industrial album? To me, no, not even close. Now, granted, we had Danzig 5 prior to this album, and yeah, that's overtly an industrial album for sure, but the term nu metal comes up around this album as well. You know, a la Korn, Kitty, Coal Chamber, bands like that. Is it nu metal? No. No, it's not. It's nowhere even close to being nu metal. So what is it? Industrial metal? Techno metal? I don't know. No, it's just, to me, a guitar-oriented metal album. That's what it is to me, with all the flourishes and the accoutrement of that sort of thing. Now, in the late 90s, you know, we're coming into the age of the internet, and there's people discovering music in a way that they never had prior. And I think we went through a phase in the heavy music community where it was easy for us to sort of write things off and just whatever, because genres were expanding very, very quickly at that point, because you're able to discover bands that you had no idea existed prior to that. But yeah, this is a metal album, overt, through and through. This is a metal album. And if you want proof of that, look at a song like Apocalypse. There's absolutely a Black Sabbath thread that's weaved all the way through that song for sure. And yeah, this is a metal album, absolutely. And that's indicative of how wide the parameters of the genre had gotten by that point, because it encompassed so many different kinds of bands and genres, subgenres, whatever you want to call it. Variety. And I think when you stand this album next to whatever else came out around that time, you're going to go, yeah, that's metal for sure. And musically, there are amazing players on this album. Josh Lazzy, the bass player, obviously. Glenn plays a lot of guitar on most of the Danzig catalog. And I really, really want to take the time to mention Joey Castillo. Now, Joey did a long stint in Danzig. I can't remember how many years, but I think he joined during the Danzig 4 tour, I believe. I think Chuck had left somewhere in there and Joey had taken over and they were out promoting Danzig 4. Now, Joey's got a great pedigree. Even prior to joining Danzig, he comes from hardcore, and then he went on to be in Queens of the Stone Age for a long time. He did a long run with Eagles of Death Metal, Blood Clot with Danzig alumni Todd Youth, obviously. That's the John Joseph from the Cro-Mags fronted project that they did. It's a really, really good album. Check it out. And then obviously, Joey's doing Zach Sabbath right now. But to me, Joey's one of those metal journeymen, or not even metal exclusively, because he plays all kinds of different genres of music. But he's one of those guys, have sticks, will travel. And he's the kind of player that you want him in your band, period, end of story, because he makes being in the band easier for a lot of people, whether it's knowledge of the business or just how to know how to function in a band when it comes to how he handles himself off stage and on stage. And he projects a confidence when it comes to drums that you don't always get in every band that you like. Joey's he's one of those really, really utility driven players that, like I said, you want that guy in your band because it's going to make everything easier. Guitar-wise, it was a guy named Jeff Chambers, did a lot of work in the studio. And obviously, like we talked about, Glenn Danzig plays a lot of guitar on the albums. Lots of chugging riffs, a lot of atmospherics, similar to black metal in the regard that you're relying really, really heavily and leaning into the atmospheric side of stuff. All those feedback passages where it just sort of enhances the mood of the album, sometimes chaotic, sometimes dark, that sort of thing. It's prevalent in the Danzig catalog, obviously. But the one thing I like about the way the album is mixed is that the guitars are dense. It's extremely dense. And I would say the entire mix is very heavy, very tightly jammed in with each other. But it's not impenetrable. My ears don't fatigue when I listen to the album. It's dense, but it still has room to breathe. Standout tracks, for all its lurching forward and the sort of freight train element, there's a song called Unspeakable on here that, it's a juggernaut. Adore the 1-2 punch of Fire Mass and Cold Eternal, a little past the album's midway point. I think Fire Mass really, really underscores the value of restraint because it's a little more subdued, it's a little more mellow, for lack of a better term, but it does it without the album coming to a screeching halt. I come to lie on the fire. Cold Eternal sees Glenn Danzig in full-on croon. Lots of moodiness to this song. Lyrically, conjures up images of a love that's present but also elusive at the same time. There's a distance to the atmosphere of this song. It's like you're in fog, reaching for something that's just sort of barely out of reach. Hard for me to describe, but it's one of my favorite songs on the album.
You were the saddest one, lingers on. Yours are the greatest eyes, bring me love. Oh, little thing you do, eternal and so cold, and you know it's all a stone. Eternal is cold.
If you're only going to listen to one song, I want you to listen to the whole album. I'm just putting that out there because it's worth it. But if you're only going to do one, be that way. I want you to listen to the title track, Satan's Child. This song embodies the dynamics of the greater album. The verses have this rigid, and clipped staccato thing. And then the chorus is just wide open. The throttle is all the way. Freight train, get the hell out of the way. Dynamics. That's what this song is about. That's what this album is about. No wonder this is the title track to the album. Now, I've picked up the Cleopatra Records 2022 version of this album. I want to talk about some of the variants that came out at that time also, and then just a bunch of other random stuff that surrounded the original release that I think is noteworthy from a collecting standpoint. Okay, guys, so a bunch of stuff to go through. Number one, I wanted to touch base on a couple things from around the time of the original release of the album. And then obviously all of these Cleopatra variants that have came out in the last couple of years since 2022. So first up is the Unspeakable CD single. Boom. It's a cool cover. Glenn's purple. We got some awesome green font stuff happening. I don't have a copy of this. I would love to own one at some point. But man, these things are steep on the secondary market. Whew. Yeah, these things get up there. That's the cover. Here's the back of the CD single. I think the only CD single I have from Danzig is, I believe it's from Luciferi. It might be Black Mass. I think it was like not necessarily a single, but like a giveaway. Is when my brother and I, when Derek and I went to go see Danzig on that tour, I think they were giving them out at the merch booth, I believe, because I bought a hoodie. I think I bought a hoodie that night, and then I grabbed a couple stickers, and then I think a couple copies of that little sampler thing that they were giving out. So, I mean, it's cool. I would love to have this Unspeakable one, but man, I'm not in a position right now to be throwing down that kind of change for just a single. Sure, at some point I'll probably get a hold of one, but definitely not right now. But just a quick rundown of what's on it. There's the radio edit, the single version, and the album version's a little bit longer. And then nice little Danzig logo, the skull logo thing. And some of the credits on there too. So if you happen across this thing and you can get it for a good price, I'd snag it up. Here's a quick shot of the actual CD itself. It's cool looking. All right, and then up next are the picture disc versions that had came out around the time of the original release of it. There's one side of it, and then there's I believe that's the side A, and then there's a slip that went over the top of it. This was on Nuclear Blast, by the way. Picture disc series, limited edition. There's the slip cover, and then there's the actual picture disc itself. So this was the cover of the album, and they had to figure out a way to to create an album cover that they could put in stores that nobody was going to reject, that sort of thing. So this thing caught a bunch of flack as far as people not wanting to cover it just because, well, it's a naked chick and she's creepy. So there you go. Still cool looking. I'd like to have one of these, but picture discs have never been they've never caught my attention. I have a couple. I believe I have a AFI one somewhere. And then I think I have a Judas Priest one and maybe a couple other ones, but I've never really gravitated towards these. It's not something that's ever, I've never felt a compulsion to go out and grab them. Still cool. That illustration is rad. That's for dang sure. And then there's the cover. There's the Cleopatra version. So this is the version I have, the red marbled one. But I just wanted you guys to see it while it's in the shrink wrap because I'm going to take it off once we pull it out and we start looking at it. So heads up. And then this was the red marbled version right there. When we look at mine, I always tell people, from one version to the next, as far as like a single pressing, if you're going to get something that's marbled, all of them are going to be unique. The nature of creating vinyl, an LP, is that it's never going to go the same way twice. They'll put those pucks on the stampers and boom. It's going to go, the color little striations are going to go any way that they feel like going at the time. So that's one of the neat things I like about marbled vinyl is that no two are exactly the same. It's kind of like snowflake. It's neat. And then here's the red splatter. That's the hype sticker. And it's always funny because a lot of record labels do this. Simulation only. It's like one of those results may vary sort of things. I thought the hype sticker was cool looking. And then this is a copy. I believe this is the press photo that Cleopatra released. I mean, it's cool as hell looking. Thing's awesome. There you can see the label. It's got a variant, like a two-tone version of the picture on the cover of the album that we're going to look at. This is the black version of it, the Cleopatra one. Nothing super crazy here, but there's the hype sticker in case you want to see it. I do think, just a mental note, I think the black vinyl with that two-tone label looks really, really cool. But this one was 180 gram. So heads up, if 180 gram is your thing, I think a lot of people like it. You get a lot of people will talk about, if you press an album at 45 RPM, you'll have a lot of audiophiles will swear that the sound quality is a little better just because there's a little more room to cut the grooves or to stamp the grooves. Absolutely, for sure. Nothing crazy there. And then here's the alternate Cleopatra cover, which I do want to get my hand on one of these at some point. Again, here, this is 180 grams. So the alternate covers are going to be, they're out there for sure. But when I took a look through Discogs and eBay and stuff like that, just to kind of check. And I noticed there were a couple of these that were going for a little bit higher price as opposed to the regular Simon Bisley cover, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But super duper cool looking. That thing is amazing. And then this one is that alternate cover, but this is what they called the Coke bottle press, where it's kind of like a glass green, which I thought looked super cool. And number two, that's a variant on the label as well. So that label isn't printed in red and black. It's printed in that Coke bottle green. So Coke bottle clear. That's what they're calling it, which still is super duper cool. Between the black and this one, I would probably pick this one up just because I don't know if I have anything as far as colored vinyl goes in that color. I don't think I do. I'd have to think about it for a while, but that'd be neat to have. Thing's cool. And then there was another. So This was a black and red. I think they called this haze. Black to red. Black in the center. Red outer. And here's a cool picture of it. Again, it's going to look different. All of them next to each other. They're all going to be a little bit different, which, like I said, snowflake. No two snowflakes are exactly alike. But still, super cool looking. I really liked it. And then here's the black with a splash of red. Hype sticker up there. I thought it was a cool idea. It looks like most of these it's toward the center of the puck. So you didn't get much going out past the actual, the center label itself. Still super duper duper cool looking. If I pick up one of the variants, I'll probably get that alternate cover with the Coke bottle glass looking one. I thought it was neat. And the variation with the center labels, still super duper cool. And then I just thought this was worth mentioning. This is a promo CD of the album, which I've never came across it. Never seen one before out and about. If I find one, I'd probably pick it up as long as it's, not going to go for too steep. Now, heads up as well, I had reached out to Cleopatra and did a press inquiry to them to see if they could give me the numbers as far as each of the different pressings of this. And it looks like a lot of them were made in 2022, and then they did another run in 2023. And I never got a reply, which is a bummer. I sent them an email directly to the email that they have on the website, and then they replied to that and gave me a link for an actual press inquiry. And I did that, I believe, 2 weeks ago. Haven't heard anything. I'm the type of guy, I'm going to be willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. Who knows how many people are fielding questions like that at the label, and who the hell knows how many people work for the label. So, there's still a lot of companies, whether it's a grocery store or a record label, that there's a lot of places still having staffing issues as we've come out of, the leftovers from all the frustrating stuff that came out of COVID and what it did, as far as the economy goes. So I'm willing to give the label the benefit of the doubt. If they do reply at some point, I'll put, I don't know, maybe I'll put this on the some of the music, the Lifeblood social media. So just heads up. So maybe to be continued in that aspect. So we'll find out at some point or the other. But let's throw this red splatter one up one more time, because I think that thing's just super duper badass looking. All right, we're going to open this sumbitch up, and we're going to check out some other little goodies. All right, so first up, there's a live album that came out in 2001. This is a compilation of a bunch of different performances from assorted lineups of the band up to that point. And there's a fair number of songs from the Satan's Child tour. I believe that would have been 2000 to maybe 2001. But I think Satan's Child came out at the end of 1999. So I'm guessing, I don't know how long the tour lasted, but probably not much past 2000, maybe some dates into early 2001. But worth noting, Satan's Child was on here, Five Finger Crawl, Unspeakable, Lilin, and I think that's it as far as Satan's Child goes. But this thing is definitely worth checking out. It is not cheap on Discogs, the secondary market, so just heads up, be prepared. It's going to be a bit of an investment because this thing is hard to find. So 2 discs. There's the one, and then there's the number 2. I think the performances for the stuff off of Satan's Child, I think there's a San Francisco show on there, maybe a Los Angeles show, and something else. I think it's in the booklet. So just heads up, this thing is out there. It's a cool thing to have, especially if you're a Danzig diehard, but yeah, live for sure. And you can definitely tell that it's live, which lots of cool pictures in here, by the way. Always thought that one was neat looking. Different lineups of the band. all that kind of stuff, which I think everybody talks about that legendary Irvin Meadows show. And I believe, whenever you see the guys in the yellow security shirts and jackets, that's probably going to be from that performance at Irving Meadows, because I think it was a Halloween show, I believe. But that's like a high watermark in as far as the first 4 albums or first 3 albums go. It was just an enormous show. Huge show. Just absolute pandemonium, that sort of thing. But yeah, tons of good stuff in here. It's definitely worth picking up if you're a Danzig diehard. All right, next up is this. I just picked this up not too long ago. It's fairly recent, probably within the last couple months, I think. But anyway, this is an album flat. And I know we've talked about album flats at least once on Vinyl Thursdays. So what these are roughly the size of an album cover. But these were promo pieces that would get sent out to record stores. And so you could put up stuff, hang them on the wall of the record store for displays to promote the new album. Generally, my experience has been that most album flats are printed on both sides. There's usually the cover of the album or some sort of variant of the cover of the album. And then you'll have a little bit of stuff on the back as well. This one, as far as the back goes, it's super simple. Everybody knows that I like the stark contrast of just straight up black and white work. I love it. I think it always pops for me. I think it looks great. 3 years in the making, Danzig 666, Satan's Child, the soundtrack of 2 ages in collision. Martin Popoff from Brave Words and Bloody Knuckles magazine. So you even got a cool little quote there. And then heads up down here, Evil Live Records. That's Glenn's own imprint. So, yeah. Glenn had his own record label for the longest time, and going all the way back to the Misfits with Plan 9 and on to Sam Hain and all that other stuff. So Glenn, is kind of a made man when it comes to the DIY work ethic. He really set the bar when it comes to doing it yourself, because, he's literally been doing that since 1977. Whether it's him screen printing t-shirts for tour or doing mail order distribution as far as the Fiend Club goes, things like that. So, in my opinion, he's a pillar in the DIY, punk rock, hardcore, metal scene, whatever you want to call it, as far back as the late 70s. So it's been his bread and butter his entire life. And he's kind of carried that work ethic over to his music career as well, as far as how he runs his band and stuff like that. I just think, like I said, he's a pillar within that DIY community. But I picked this up. I think it wasn't much. I think I got it for like $20. So probably what I'll do is I'll frame it, put it up somewhere here in the Music the Lifeblood room. This is a different house than all of the episodes that came previous to this, because my wife and I bought a new home a couple years ago, and I'm still decorating and adjusting stuff as we go. So when you're in one place for a long time, you can get things really dialed in as far as pictures hanging, posters up, that sort of thing. But I'm excited to have this. I think I'm going to put it probably somewhere in the hallway between the couple bedrooms and the bathroom and the walk-through kitchen and all that stuff. I'll have to find a really good spot for it. But artwork is killer. It's done by a guy named Simon Bisley. A lot of people call him Biz. He's also done tons of work for Glenn Danzig's Verotic comic book imprint. He's done tons and tons and tons of stuff for Verotic, and his art style is, when you see a Simon Bisley illustration, you immediately know Simon Bisley drew that damn thing. The dude, he's just incredible. He's got I suppose it's, Boris Vallejo and Frank Frazetta meets death. Hard to describe, but yeah, absolutely unmistakable art style. And one of the things I like about this album cover is his ability to create a focal point without always using straight up sight lines. You know, he doesn't have, you know, lines that act as, you know, where to point your eye towards whatever he wants the focal point to be. He just does it in a way that not only does it enhance the quality of whatever the focal point is, but he's really good at kind of the chaos that surrounds whatever focal point as far as his illustration goes. His artwork is amazing, which case we did I think I did an episode of the lyrics of the Left Hand first book. I don't know if I've done a second episode for the second book. I can't remember. I'll have to go back and look at that. If we haven't done one, I'm going to have to at some point. But Simon Bisley did all of the artwork for the lyrics of the Left Hand books. And he's fucking killer. I think in a way, him and Glenn Danzig have been able to forge this partnership that is very mutually beneficial. And they've always struck me as being artistically in tune, which I think is a hard thing to find, not only in music, but in illustration as well. It's just, you know, you don't get two entities like that are able to find each other and stay locked in artistically very often. So, you know, maybe Glenn Danzig's music is Biz's muse, I suppose, in a way. But yeah, this album flat is killer. Plus, you can get them. They're very affordable, even if you're on a music collecting budget. But yeah, this is definitely something that I love having in my collection now. Totally awesome. All right, here's the big one. So this came from Cleopatra Records. I pre-ordered this or bought it or whatever I did right when they announced it was coming out and it went up for sale or whatever the case is. And I've held on to it in the mailer since I got it because I knew this was going to be probably a Vinyl Thursday episode when I came back to doing episodes because I took some time off, right? So I've hung on to it. And the one thing I will say, obviously, I've had to open it up, so you're not going to see me actually crack into it this episode. But this is a pretty good mailer. I don't really have any complaints as far as what Cleopatra selected, you know, to actually mail this thing out. This thing's nice, rigid. Thing I like about it is that there's kind of a fold in here that holds the LP in place so it's not rattling around. The only thing, my real only gripe is that just taped it up just a little more. But it held, it did fine, but that's super nitpicky. You know, as far as music collectors go, audiophiles, we get really, really finicky about how we like to have our stuff mailed to us. But even then, I don't think this thing was in any kind of jeopardy as far as getting damaged during shipment. This mailer is rigid, it's tight. The LP is not in there scooting from one side and you're running the risk of seam splits on the cover, stuff like that. This was a good mailer to use. So good job, Cleopatra. All right. There's these flaps I was talking about. I like these. And the other thing too worth mentioning is that they bubble wrap this thing, which is nice to see because not every record label does that. Not even if you buy stuff directly from bands do they shrink or bubble wrap, stuff like that. So again, good customer service in the sense that they've taken the time to make sure that your investment is safe. It's going to arrive to you intact and in one piece. So like I said, good job, Cleopatra. You guys nailed it. So let's cut this bubble wrap off. So when my wife and we moved a while back, we bought a new house and in the move, I had lost Grandma Lytle's paring knife that was handed down from my grandma to my dad, from my dad to me. And I've had this thing probably since I was, I don't know, I think probably when I moved out of my mom and dad's house somewhere in my 20s. So I love this thing. So we discovered it. I discovered it when we were doing the move and setting up in the new house and stuff. So it was kind of a pleasant surprise. So I know I've mentioned it. I had it in episodes of Vinyl Thursday in the past, but I had misplaced it and it sort of disappeared. So here it is again. Ye old Lido knife. I talked a lot about, how much I like this album. And on top of that, too, this has it holds a pretty significant sentimental place for me because my first new Danzig album was in the sense that I had become a full-on fan when it came out was Luciferi, Danzig 777. I adore that album. And I did an episode of Vinyl Thursday on it quite a while ago. So flip back in the queue and you can go check that out. And I believe this was the next album I bought after Luciferi, because I had talked to people that had been listening to Danzig around that time quite a bit. It was actually a guy that had tattooed me. He's the one that tattooed the Crimson Ghost, and I have a Michael Myers tattoo on my left arm. He was the guy that did that, and he was really, really into Danzig as well. And when he was tattooing me, he was playing Luciferi, and I was like, "Is this Danzig?" He said, "Yeah." I was like, well, "This is way different than what I'm used to," because up to that point, it was mostly just the self-titled, the first album, and then Lucifuge here and there, and How the Gods Kill here and there. And I just loved the heaviness of Luciferi. It's not the blues rock oriented stuff that was, so prevalent on the first four albums. I loved how heavy Luciferi was. It's just so fucking heavy as far as guitar tone goes. And I knew a Todd Youth at that point, and I loved his guitar playing. I loved just the tone he went with. I was just fascinated with it. And the tattooist, his name was Sean. Sean said, "Yeah, you ought to check out the album that came out before it. If you're into 7, you're probably going to like 6. So this was one of the next things I picked up. And then after that, I think I just bought everything. I might have bought probably 5 and 1 through 4. It's possible I could have just bought them all at once. I don't remember listening to them individually for long chunks of time. It was like I bought them all at once and I just immediately started gorging myself on all of the albums that I hadn't heard at that point. So it's kind of neat how that happens as far as how you get introduced to things and what catches your ears and what catches your eyes, for sure. So it's interesting to go back and revisit something that I was exposed to very early on in my, I guess you would call it fandom, I suppose, if you want to go that route, but my fandom of the band. It's fun. It's neat to revisit that. It's a cool feeling. So, but let's crack this thing open. Oh, hype sticker. Sorry if there's a glare. You know what? I'll just peel this off first and then we can look at it. So I was looking at Cleopatra's website the other day too, as I was prepping to do this episode, and man, they got a lot of good stuff on there. Definitely somebody I'm going to go back and check out and see if there's anything else that really, really, really interests me. Shrink wrap isn't too tight as well. That's worth mentioning, because a lot of times when albums get shrink wrapped, sometimes it can be too tight. And what will happen is that it'll start bending at the corners. And then you get wear and tear on the corners, and it's never going to return itself to mint condition, straight out of the shrink wrap. So that's definitely something worth noting, that this wasn't on so tight that it's going to jeopardize the integrity of the actual album sleeve. So, all right, you guys know that I keep hype stickers. I'll cut this thing out and I'll probably just stick it in here once I get it in a sleeve and boarded and bagged all up and ready to go for the shelf when I'm not listening to it. But here's a great shot of the hype sticker. It's cool looking. And speaking of displaying this, let's go ahead and cut this thing out now. You know, I've talked about this in the past that, you know, every little piece of the actual entire package that goes into the release of an album, whether it's the hype sticker or random inserts that you get on the inside of the album. Some bands do posters, some put a little more effort into lyric books, you know, things like that. And, you know, that it's all part of the you know, the end result. I was talking about this with somebody a couple weeks ago that there's a transcendent quality to actually holding and listening to an album that you really, really like, because it's so cool that there's so many art forms that are colliding with each other that create this thing, this almost otherworldly thing and experience, especially for people that, like I said, audiophiles and music collectors, that, you know, it's such a cool thing to be able to hold a piece of music, because generally when it comes to the music itself, it's not tangible. You know, you can't hold a song physically in your hand, a song itself physically in your hand, but you can absolutely hold the album that contains the songs in your hand. And, you know, not to get too cerebral or metaphysical about it, but like I said, it's a transcendent experience. And that's one of those things when, you know, I have this long, you know, love affair with the band Danzig. And, you know, I appreciate all corners of the catalog, whether it's an album I like more or less, whatever the case is, it's still a thread that's been woven through my life for such a long time that, you know, whenever you get to experience this, to be able to hold music and to be able to look at the cover while you're listening to it, maybe it's, you know, embossed or some die cut, you know, sort of crazy color, or just, you know, the richness of it. Like I said, it's a purely transcendent experience, at least for me. You know, I'm sure that sounds corny, absolutely, but, you know, it means a lot to me. That's for damn sure. But, okay, so there's the front cover. It's not, you know, it's not glossy, but at the same time, too, it's not matte, you know. Like I always think of some of the Midnight albums, like No Mercy for Mayhem and Satanic Royalty. The versions of those albums I have that matte quality, that a color, and I'm blanking on the actual term that is. I had somebody was nice enough to drop me a little bit of info in the comments of a video or of a post on the Instagram or something like that, saying what that actually was, the process, but I'm blanking on it. Sorry. But yeah, there's not a real sheen to this, but it's rich. It's very, very rich in color. And then on top of that too, it's not coarse. So there's a smoothness to it, but at the same time too, when I'm holding it in my hand, I can tell there's a sturdiness to it. There's a rigidity to it, which means, again, as far as the lifetime of the actual entire thing, that means it's probably going to hold up pretty well on the shelf. Now, I'll bag it and board it like I do with all my favorite albums, or some of the stuff that I would consider a little more high dollar of, you know, value goes. All bag and board stuff. But yeah, this thing is, it's got some weight to it. All right, let's do the back cover. Hey-o! Naked lady. Cool cover. Nice and simple. Sends a message. So you got the Evil Live imprint down here in left corner, and then you got the Cleopatra logo down there too. And like I said, there's some awesome stuff on the Cleopatra website. You guys ought to definitely go check it out. There's tons of good stuff. Glenn with the big boobed devil girl, that's kind of his thing. We know that. That's his thing. couldn't think of a good one. But track listing: Five Finger Crawl, Belly of the Beast, Lilin, Unspeakable, Cult Without a Name, East Indian Girl, Callie's Song. Side B: Fire Mask, Cold Eternal, Satan's Child, Into the Mouth of Abandonment, Apocalypse, and then obviously 13. That's the song that Johnny Cash did. We all know that. Produced by Glenn Danzig and Peter Lorimer, engineered by Josh Abraham. Or Abrams, I believe. Or no, it's Abraham, I think. Abrahams? Yeah, I think that's an H. Yeah, Abrahams, plural. That guy's got a good resume, by the way. He's worked on some killer albums. Dude's absolutely gifted when it comes to engineering. And then we got the 1999, and then the 2022 Evil Live Records, manufactured and marketed by Cleopatra Records, all rights reserved, unauthorized copy and reproduction, airing, lending, public performance, and broadcasting prohibited. So, blah, 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 blah. Normal stuff. Cool picture. All right, gatefold. Yeah, that's badass. So I've gotten so used to looking at the CD booklet of this, so it's cool to see these pictures blown up and huge. So Devil Girls aplenty. Josh Lazzy, bass player, also a photographer, takes great pictures. Joey Castillo, drummer, and then there's Glenn. I've always wondered what this medallion was that he's wearing, because I've never gotten a good picture of it. Sets the mood, that's for sure. But, all right, let's pull this sleeve out. Make sure you can see in there. Inside, it's white, nothing printed on it. Once in a while, you run into album covers with, on the inside of the sleeve, they're printed. Doesn't happen all that often, but there you go. So like I was talking about, this thing has some weight to it, which means that it's durable. It's going to be able to stand the test of time, which is awesome to see, because sometimes re-releases, like there's some of the Kiss catalog. I think I have I believe it might be a German best of the solo albums, 12-inch from Kiss. And the sleeve to that thing is so flimsy. I'm always really surprised when I pull it out of the shelf. But yeah, this thing is well made. Yeah, it's awesome. All right, so put that over there. Here, let's go with that one. God, that illustration is awesome. That'd be a good tattoo, but you'd have to get it huge. Yeah, that's awesome. It's neat to see the snake skin back here in the background. Looks cool. Is that a python or a boa, maybe? I'm into reptiles. It's one of the things that when my ears get tired, I have a list of stuff that I'll go to when, if my ears are tired from diving into music and I need to let them rest. One of the things I like to check out is psychology, theology, sometimes astronomy, sometimes marine reptiles, stuff like that. I always get fascinated, and it acts as almost like a palate cleanser. So if I've done a deep dive on a band and I need to reset my ears and let them rest, and I'll focus on something else for a day or two. That way, when I go back to digging into music, I feel fresh, you know. I'm not fatigued as far as my ears go. But yeah, man, that's awesome. Super cool. There's the other side. So the CD booklet has, man, you know what? I'm going to go grab the CD. Hold on. Okay, let's do a quick little A-B. Here's the CD. This is the one I bought and that was released in 1999. So this is my original copy. So this artwork, you know, it's obvious, not on there. So what I'm wondering, yeah. So that's sleeve is, or the inner sleeve is printed on both sides, obviously. But here's what the CD album cover looks like. So a little more pictures from the original release. I don't feel like that takes away from the release. Yeah, obviously it would have been cool to have a big old fancy printed booklet that would have went along with it. But keep in mind, the more you stack the release as far as the LP goes, chances are the price is going to go up, keep going up. But just a quick little glance at the artwork in the CD. It's a cool picture of Glenn. Well, there you go. Yeah, there's the artwork for Lillian. Joey. There's your gatefold. Fire Mass and Cold Eternal. I talked about the combination of those two songs side by side, and I believe they're the first and second song of side 2. So what a cool way to open up the second side. It's cool. And there's Glenn back cover. There's Josh again. Yeah. There's the Apocalypse illustration too. And there's guys in the band. CD. Make sure you guys can see it. Sorry. There you go. It's just two-tone version of the cover. And then there's the back. So it's cool. Do I feel let down that this stuff isn't included in this? I don't think I do. Because here's why. That's why. So this thing is super cool. Try to get rid of that glare. Sorry. There you go. Check out that label too. That label is super rad. Sorry. Get it lined up. There you go. Both sides printed on the label too. That's interesting as far as track listing goes. And I don't know if you guys can see it really well on camera. I'll see if I can maybe heighten up the contrast as far as for the color goes. There's like a swirling sort of cloudiness of black, a marbling effect. I think the hype sticker said, what did it say? Yeah, marbled vinyl. Yep. It's definitely there. What I'll do is I'll take a backlit image of it and I'll drop it over the top of this so that you guys can see what it actually looks like. And a lot of time doing those backlit pictures, it definitely helps the color pop a little more, kind of gives you a better idea of, you know, the effect of what's going on with it. But yeah, there's some smokiness, marbling effect there. And it's cool. Looks neat. And then there's side 2. So again, that's what the actual CD, what was printed on the CD for the CD release version of it. That's cool looking. Yeah, that's awesome. It's not 180 gram. Because if it was 180 gram, the price is going to go up. And I am, with what I got, I am 100% okay with what I paid for this. So I think I got a good value for my money, because this was not stupid expensive. This was very affordable. And even on the secondary market, it's trending pretty affordable too. So probably it has a lot to do with it being a recent release. It's still fairly new. It's, we're not a decade or 2 decades in to it being out. But I would imagine at some point the value of it's going to go up for certain. It's a cool release. It's awesome. Yeah, that marbling effect. Again, sorry about the lights, guys. It's hard in this room. It's not very big. At the old house, too, the room that I did the show in wasn't that big either. So, but yeah, man, this thing looks cool. Let's pull up that backlit image again so you guys can see it. But yeah, what a cool package. Thinking about this album a lot the last couple weeks as I've been preparing to do this episode, because it's my first episode back. I've took some time off to deal with life. But this was a really, really fun way to get back into the swing of things. I'm really, really glad that I did it. I knew that whatever my first episode back was going to be, I really wanted it to be an album that I felt at home with, that I had a lot of familiarity, and I knew the album, back to front. I've been listening to it for, 25 years now. So, I'm glad I went with this album. For me, it was fun to just rediscover all the things that I like about it. Just a killer album. Which, by the way, while we're looking at it, look at all the detailing in the background of this cover. Skulls, horned skulls, screaming skulls, it's awesome. Biz really, really puts in his work when it comes to illustration. Glenn's, his belt buckle, he's famous for wearing that, where the actual Danzig, the skull logo came from. It was from a comic book. It's a variant of that. It's a slightly different version of that. And, this is the scratch logo as opposed to the original logo, which either one I'm good with. Doesn't matter. It still says Danzig. That's the thing that matters to me. But I like this scratch logo. I still think it looks awesome. I've had a bunch of shirts over the course of my lifetime, and I wear them to the point that they fall apart. And, I've had a ton of them with that scratch logo on it. It just fucking cool looking. All right, there's the back cover again. I've always wondered how they attach that tail. Does everyone's mind go to the same place mine does? Sorry. Zing. I made a joke. Yeah, it's cool. God, that's a cool picture. A little hair on there. Yeah. God, that's cool. Let's look at the gatefold again. Man, that's an awesome picture. It's cool looking. Then do the inner sleeve again. That's side B. A little bit of a Geiger vibe there. And I thought this was neat too. The title track was the only album, or the only song that they printed in red. I thought that was great. That was awesome. Oh, this too, the credits down here at the bottom. Let's check these out real quick. Recorded at NBC Studio California and Big Love Studio Hollywood. Mixed at A&M. RIP. I think that's, well, yeah, I think I don't know if the building got torn down. I can't remember. I could have swore when I interviewed Steve Zing a while back, we had talked about that studio. It's one of those conversations I had with him. I have to jog my memory. Side A tracks 1 through 6 mixed by Jay Gordon and Amir from Orgy. I talked about that, obviously. Let's see. Side B tracks 2, 3, 4, and 6 mixed by Cameron Webb, Danzig, Glenn Danzig, Lorimer. Side B track 1 mixed by John X Danzig Lorimer. Side B track 5 mixed by Jay Gordon and Amir, Glenn Danzig, Lorimer. Guest guitars on all tracks, Jeff Chambers, talked about that. Cover painting by Simon Bisley, interior illustrations and internet cover, Martin Edmond, photos, Alex Solka, design, Glenn Danzig, and Damn It, Ullman, all songs written by Glenn Danzig, EFA Live Music, lyrics reprinted by permission, all rights reserved. Glenn Danzig is endorsed by nobody. Lazzy is endorsed by Dunlop, Ibanez, Dita Sunglasses, Porn Star, and his son Rocco. That's awesome. Joey C is endorsed by Pisces, Tama, Vader Sticks, Easton Gloves, and Porn Star. Porn Star was a clothing company around that time, by the way, if you don't know. Oh, I love the Snake Lady. Goes along with Lilin. My wife loves that song, by the way. God, she thinks it's awesome. It's one of the neat thing about talk about my wife and I, our relationship a little bit, and we kind of bonded when we started dating. She comes from a completely different place. She's from Atlanta, grew up around hip hop culture down in Atlanta, and on top of that, she was a theater person. It's just a completely different world, 180-degree difference between me growing up in rural Indiana. I'm from a small town called Hartford City. Punk rock, into punk rock, metal, Midwestern kid, that sort of thing. And two of us, each of us exposed the other to a lot of different facets of art that we may not have come to appreciate otherwise. And one of the funnest things about my wife and I's relationship is that she's learned about Danzig just by virtue of being with me all these years. And she loves the Misfits. She likes listening to Sam Hain, and she really, really appreciates Danzig. I played her this song, I don't know, probably 5-6 years ago, and she loved it. She absolutely loved it. She does burlesque. She's a burlesque performer, and she actually has a routine that she does to this song. So isn't that cool? To me, how we influence each other on a artistic and cultural level. I think it's neat. Yeah, man, that illustration is awesome. I love it. All right, one last look at the LP. That thing is awesome. Smokiness. Feels like 110. It's not 180. Yeah, probably 110. Excited to get this thing on the turntable and listen to it today. It's amazing. All right. Danzig. Satan's Child. All right, folks, that's it. Thanks for tuning in. Do you like Satan's Child? What do you think of the album? Comment, do all that, whatever. Don't forget to check out the rest of the Music of Lifeblood content, back episodes of the Music of Lifeblood podcast. There's also conversations from the pit, deep dives into music, having a good time collecting, blah, 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 blah. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.